Stu Armstrong with interviews that pack a punch.
Hello and welcome to Radio Northumberland. My name's Stu Armstrong and this is the Stu Armstrong interview. On each show, I interview someone from around the world of combat sports, and one thing's for sure, my interviews will always pack a punch. My background, as you may know, is the author of the Diaries of a Dorman series of books and patron of the charity Choose Lives Not Knives. This week's brave soul, who's agreed to let me grill them for your listening pleasure, is a huge name in combat sports, the most dangerous man on the planet, WWE star and UFC Hall of Famer, Mr. Ken Shamrock.
Stu Armstrong with interviews that pack a punch.
First of all, as a man who's fought at a competitive level for over 20 years now, how do you think that's taken a toll on your body and mind?
Well, I mean, it's like anything in life, the longer you live, obviously the older you get, the more issues and different things you got to deal with. But I've been very fortunate and blessed that as time has gone on, that I have trained, worked out, and I've eaten and lived properly, that I'm able to be able to do things now at my age that a 20-year-old would be able to do. So, a lot of that's just the way I lived and the way I kept myself healthy.
But with the added experience, obviously.
Yeah, the experience is huge. I don't have to earn that anymore. I don't have to learn it anymore. So it's really good to already have that in place.
Well, huge news all over the world at the moment is your up-and-coming debut AKB bare-knuckle fight, scheduled for April in the UK, against the king of the Travellers and bare-knuckle boxing legend, James Quinn. Can you tell us how this came about?
First, it was supposed to be against a guy named Deca Heggie. I thought, well, you know what? Sounds interesting. It's fun. I have looked it up, and it seems like a lot of people are interested in watching it. It's not at a professional level yet. I thought, well, maybe we can bring it to that. Maybe we can do what we did with the UFC and No Holds Barred, take it from something raw and make it into something professional. So I thought, okay, well, let's look at it. And then I looked at the opponent, and, he's not to say he's not a tough guy, because he is, and I think that he's probably going to get tougher as he gets better, but he didn't have a whole lot of experience, so the opponent really wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Well, I walked away from it, and they called me back later. They came back with James Quinn, and I said, yeah, okay, we'll look this guy up, and he's undefeated, he has a good reputation, there's history behind him, and then, of course, with my history, I thought, wow, now this will work. This is something we could put together, put a fight together, and do it, and be able to take this bare-knuckle fighting, which everybody seems to want to be watching, because all the social media sites got something on it about bare-knuckle, and do something with it and bring it to where NHB used to be into where it is in it today as a sport that people recognize as an event. So I thought, well, this will work. Let's do this. So we put the thing together, and that's how we got to where we're at today with me and him fighting.
I think what you're saying, it's a perfect time to do this as well. I'm quite a big bare-knuckle fan myself. I travel the country and go to a lot of the B-Bad events, and it's came such a long way. It does still have a long way to go. So I think it's great that a big sort of well-known name as yourself is getting involved and helping trying to bring bare-knuckle to the forefront. I
think bare-knuckle, and I said it when I first started fighting and they brought gloves in, I've always said this, and I'll always believe this, is I believe bare-knuckle is in the purest form. Nobody has an advantage. There's no politics involved when you put a glove on somebody. It's bare-knuckle, mano-a-mano, and you go out there and you get it done. When you put gloves on it, you take away different types of submissions. You take away people who want to throw bombs and not be very accurate. There's just so much to putting a glove on somebody that takes away the ability of a tough guy or a guy who's very accurate in punching. It takes away their advantage by adding a glove.
I mean, obviously, you're most famous for your MMA fights. How have you prepared differently in your training to fight bare-knuckle rather than for MMA?
I go back to my roots, the way that I originally started training, because when I first got into the pancreas over in Japan, we didn't wear any gloves there either. So it was bare knuckles to the body and then open hand to the head. So we trained all the time without the gloves.
Yeah.
So then when No Holds Barred came in, UFC when it first came out, it was bare knuckle. You could punch to the head, you could kick and everything else on the ground. So we ended up starting to train in the gym. So I trained for about 7 years with bare knuckle. in the gym. So I just got to go back to my roots and do what I've done my whole life.
Do you think you'll be able to resist sort of maybe natural urges to and I'm sure you will, to throw kicks, go for submissions, and sort of grapple and wrestle when you're in this event?
You know, when you're doing something like this, I've got 4 months to train for it. So when you train for a fight, you're usually training and you train yourself to react to certain things that happen in a fight. So I don't think that's going to be a problem because I'm going to be training for a boxing bare knuckle, and everything that I do is going to be reacting from that. So I don't see how that would play into it.
You know, once this fight's over, whichever way that it happens, do you think we'll see more of you in bare knuckle boxing, or is this just really this one particular fight that, as you say, grabbed your attention?
Well, this is one fight that grabbed my attention. I'm not looking past that. You know, I want to focus on this, and I want to go in there, and I don't just want to go in and just compete. I want to go in there and dominate, do what I do.
I'm sure you're aware, as we've already sort of mentioned, bare knuckle boxing, it still needs to really come to the forefront. It can sometimes have a little bit of stigma attached to it. What do you feel really needs to happen for BKB to be taken more seriously as a mainstream sport?
Well, I think we're doing it now. I think it's getting people recognized fighters to fight one another, and for people to actually watch it, because, you know, they're watching two guys with boxing gloves on going around and hit each other with pillows, rather than two guys that get in there and have to be a little bit more accurate on where the punches go. There's not so much dancing around, and when you do hit somebody, it does make a difference. Instead of having to hit somebody with 100 punches in order for it to affect them, you only have to hit somebody with 2 or 3 punches in order for it to affect them.
Stu Armstrong with interviews that pack a punch.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm quite a big bare knuckle fan, and when I talk about it, that's the way I see it compared to glove boxing. A lot less punches seem to be thrown with a lot more accuracy because it can do a lot more damage.
Well, you know, it's like this. When you talk about putting boxing gloves on, the damage is done to the brain trauma. And that's over a period of time. You may not see it in that fight. It's one of those secret killers where you fight, 20 times, and then at the end of your career, you hang up your gloves, and then you wonder, what happened because you can't remember your mother's name or your wife's name or your kid's name. So I ask people, would you rather have a few cuts and blood and a broken nose, or would you rather have brain trauma?
I mean, obviously, it is a worry sort of for some people. I was wondering, how does it feel to have your sons now fighting competitively? And was it difficult to adjust your famous training style to train with your sons? I
realize the danger in fighting, and I've been doing it my whole life, and I've seen things unfold, and I've watched the competitors fight, and the reality of someone actually getting seriously hurt is really rare. So I see my kids in more of a danger of playing football. In some of these other contact sports, it seems to me like you would have a higher risk of getting injured in those than you do in this, just because you can't continue to keep punching somebody in the head like that unless you're accurate.
Have you got any opinions on the current lawsuit against the UFC and the claims that the fighters are paid too little?
Well, listen, I've made my opinion. I was the first one 15 years ago to bring it up and talk about it, and I got hammered for it for so long. No one stood by me or backed me or gave me support, and now it's starting to come to fourfold again, and now people are going to ask me again what I think, and I'm not going to do that because I've already did that. I've already went that route, and now it's time for somebody else to pick up the torch and do it themselves.
Have you got an opinion on the current controversy surrounding John Jones and his alleged use of cocaine?
Listen, people hear that stuff and all of a sudden they all start going, oh my gosh, how bad that is. And I think to myself, are you kidding me? Really? It's like we got our heads buried so far into the sand that we don't realize that this is going on? Really? I mean, really? I mean, come on. There's steroids, there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's sex, there's all kinds of stuff happening. And we all know it. But when it happens, we all want to go, whoa, look it, man. Now we can see it, so let's really make a big deal out of it. Leave the guy alone. Let him get his recovery. Let him get to where he needs to be. Let him fix his life. Let's not make it something that it's not, because we all know that these things happen. People do these things. So don't go pointing the finger, because you'll have 10 pointing back at you.
How do you feel about the way the current shift in MMA, it seems to be moving away from fighting a little and becoming more of a technical and point-scoring sport?
Well, that's why I love the opportunity to be able to get in there and fight bare knuckle, because we're going back to the old school roots where people wanted to see guys stand up and fight. You know, used to scream and yell, said, don't go to the ground, stand up and fight like a man. Well, we're standing up and fighting like a man. So I think that the sport has gotten so critical because there's a lot of money you can lose by losing a fight, because the next fight may be a big money fight, so you're not going to take any chances that may cause you to lose that big money fight. Boxing went that way for a long time, where a lot of these world champions wouldn't fight each other. They would pick contenders that would come up and fight somebody that was tailor-made for them, because nobody wanted to lose money, including management. So that's what's happening in this big business now of MMA, is that everybody's afraid to lose money, so no one's really wanting to go out there on the limb and take a chance. So when this came up with bare knuckle boxing, I said, you know, this should be fun. This, we can give the fans what they want to see, where they want to see guys go out there and finish one another. And it's something that's pure and raw, that doesn't have a lot of politics around it, just like when it started out with no holds barred in UFC. Here we come. You want us to stand up and fight like a man? Well, you got it.
Stu Armstrong with Interviews the Packer Punch.
Who would you consider as the toughest fighter that you've ever shared a ring with?
Well, that's an unfair question, because I think that I have fought my whole career since my second fight. I have been main event or semi-main event in every one of my fights.
Yeah.
My whole career. So I have fought many different types of tough guys. So to put a finger on which one will be tougher, there's just several different ways of guys being tough. You got toughness, you got skill, you got cardio strength, you got guys that are just stronger than, cock strong. I mean, it's just, there's different types of tough guys.
Yeah. If you had to choose sort of one opponent who was probably your hardest fight in any discipline, who would it be?
Well, I would probably have to say Masakatsu Funaki was my original instructor. When I started over in Japan, I was fighting over there. And because he was the one that helped me learn my skills and get the skills that I had, when I was competing against him, it was really tough, because it seemed like he knew my every move. So I had to change it up and retrain myself when I fought him. And I fought him 3 times, and I beat him 2 out of those 3 times. So it was a testament to him on the way that he was able to get me to that level of perfection. And the biggest compliment you could pay to an instructor is when you get better than them, is when their ceiling is your floor. So I'm sure that he was very happy for me that I was able to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I suppose that would be very difficult. It would be a little bit like fighting yourself, because you've learned sort of the moves from him, so you'll anticipate it all.
Yeah, it was hard, because it was the first time I fought him, I lost, and it seemed like he just knew every move I was going to make. So I realized that early on, and I said, when I do fight him again, I've got to go into a complete different type of training camp. Try and set it off so he doesn't realize what it is that I'm doing. And I was able to do that. So, he trained me well.
Yeah. I bet he's very proud.
Yes.
Which WWE stars do you think would maybe make good bare-knuckle boxers?
There's a lot of great athletes there that could probably adapt to that atmosphere.
Do you see yourself ever coming to a conscious decision to stop fighting? Or do you think really it'll take somebody to take you kicking and screaming out of the ring and get you away from professional fighting?
Yeah, I just got to go and do what I feel that I want to do, the love of it. And I think I got a pretty good idea of my physical ability of when I think's enough. So I really don't think I'm going to go and do stupid things, like go fight a 24-year-old undefeated contender because I feel like I want to get in the ring and fight. I'm going to fight people that I feel that's going to be very competitive for me, but not something that's way out of my league.
Yeah, good matches, really, I think, is really what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you've achieved some amazing things in your career, and without doubt, you're one of the most famous fighters in the world. So a lot of things are written about you, both positive and negative, on social networking sites, saying that you'll be a no-show for the fight against James Quinn. How would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, how am I supposed to respond to it? I mean, it's ridiculous. You got a guy that's been a world champion in 2 different countries. I've been successful at everything that I've ever reached out to accomplish. I fought everybody that possibly they could put in front of me. From skilled fighters to strong fighters to just tough as nails fighters. I've never backed down from anybody.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I got a guy that's an average fighter, and I'm afraid of him. I'm ducking him. I'm thinking to myself, where is his credentials? What has he achieved? And why is it that I was the one that ducked him when I keep telling people, hey, it's called a business. If they don't hold up to their end of the bargain, you don't go walking in and do it anyways.
What's next for Ken Shamrock after the Quinn fight? I'm
not sure. I haven't really thought about that. I'm excited to be involved with training. I'm excited to be involved with a fight, in a bare-knuckle fight, something that I believe, in my opinion, I think once that it launches, I think people are going to love it and going to want more of it. I think this is just the beginning, and I think it's going to grow. I think it's going to get popular very fast. So right now, that's my focus, is being involved and a part of something that I believe is going to take off and be one of the biggest events in the world.
Yeah, fantastic. I totally agree with you there. I think if more people were aware of just what bare-knuckle events are like, then I think it will be absolutely massive. So, I mean, this fight between yourself and James can only be good for the sport.
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm glad it's James Quinn because I know he's a tough guy. I know he's undefeated. I know he comes and he wants to win. He's a professional fighter, and he brings his professional ability. And I look for a great fight because this is the fight right here. And you can mark my words because I've been in a lot of them that help start different companies. But I believe this is the fight that's going to launch bare knuckle.
And finally, how about talking after the fight, maybe a little while after, see sort of what you think then, and if it's something you want to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to talk after the fight. I think I feel pretty good about it. I'm not taking him lightly because there's no way this guy goes undefeated without having people trying to get after him and challenge him. There's always somebody that thinks they're better and somebody always trying to take you off the throne, and he's been able to stay on it, so I give him credit for that. That's a tough thing to do. I don't care what you're involved in. Somebody's always trying to throw you off if you're the best.
Yeah.
So I give him all that credit. He's got some skill. I know what he's capable of, and I know that he definitely can take a punch. So we're all prepared for that, and I realize that this is going to be a great opportunity for him and myself to be able to entertain the fans all over the world, that they're going to be able to watch something they've never seen before.
Thank you very much for talking to us and for your time, Ken. I know you're really busy. I mean, I'm going to be at the fight, so I'll see you there.
Stu Armstrong with Interviews, the Packer Punch.